Hi friends, my name is Amanda and this is my channel AceKreates. I am your Tunisian Crochet bestie and today we're going through my 2025 Make 9 as well as some of my making plans for the winter. So if that sounds good to you, grab a project, grab something cozy to drink, and let's get started. So as you can see, I'm a little off center and I'm doing that on purpose because I'm trying something new with my graphics and keeping up the sweater details or the pattern details about each project throughout my discussion on each project. So I'm gonna see how that goes for a couple of videos before I kind of make a final decision on how to move forward, but that's kind of why I'm a little off center. But I'm really excited to share with you my 2025 Make 9. If you're new here, I did do a 2024 Make 12 that ended up being a Make 9 that I readjusted mid-year, and I ended up making 6 out of the final 9. And so I'm really excited to kind of set myself up for success in 2025. So I am making a few adjustments from what I did in 2024 and kind of blindly putting things on my list. I mean, not blindly, but being very ambitious in what I was able to accomplish in 2024. My original Make 9 / Make 12 had a lot of knitted pieces, and I'm primarily a Tunisian crocheter, and it's not that I don't knit, I do knit, but I wanted more projects, Tunisian crochet projects on my 2024 list, and I'm taking that into 2025, and so I wanted to strike a balance. I'm also bringing in 2 whips into my Make 9. And that's another tool that I'm using to help make my Make 9 more successful and being able to finish it this year, because as we all know, we have kind of competing priorities, but we also have, your tastes might change throughout the year, and I do a lot of tests and not all of my tests obviously make it into my Make 9. If it was something at the beginning of the year before I set my Make 9, it may make it into my Make 9, but I also want to give myself that kind of leeway too, in realizing that there are a lot of other projects that I want to complete in addition to my Make 9. Coinciding with my Make 9 is my 2025 goals. So I'm using stash yarn for all of my Make 9 because I'm in a no-buy year. I have a lot of rules to that, which I can click up above and you can check out that video where I talk through my 2025 goals. But I'm using all stash yarn for my Make 9. And so let's get into all of the projects that I have planned for 2025 as part of my Make 9. The first project that I have on my Make 9 is my stripe pipe. And it is a whip, and my feeling is you have to make your Make 9 work for you, and this was a way for me to make my Make 9 work for me, was to bring in a whip. So this is the stripe pipe. It is a pattern by Veronika Lindberg, Kotovakika on Instagram. It is a drop shoulder constructed sweater. So you start with your back panel, you knit flat with your back panel, then you bring over your shoulders, and then you add stitches here and you join. You keep working until you have enough depth for your armholes, and then you join in the round, and then you work the pattern in the round until you get to the hem. So some really unique things about this project is all the colors that you get to use. So it's a really great scrappy project. I am using botanical yarn, their 4-ply as the main kind of cream base here. And then I'm pairing it with random woolberry fiber fingering singles that I have in my stash. I have a ton of just single skein woolberry fiber, and I thought this was a great stash busting use for them. I don't know all the names, especially this blue one, because I thought it was drop cloth, but I actually don't think it's drop cloth. The yellow is Bee's Butt. The red here, I don't remember. The brown is Gilbert Blythe. The green is Forest Walks. And I'm almost there. Some other things that it features is half twisted ribbing all throughout. So both on your neckline, on your body hem, and your arm hemming, your arm ribbing. And I really, really like half twisted rib. It does take a while, but I really like it. And I'm also, so that's the first time I've ever done half twisted rib is with this project. And the other first thing I've never done is the Italian bind off. And I really like that. I actually like that more than just like a normal stretchy bind off where you have to like take loops over loops and all of that fun stuff. I just like the ease of using a needle, just like a darning needle, to do it. And it didn't take, I feel like, any longer than regular ribbing takes me. So I might just, I mean, depending on the pattern, that might be like a more normal bind off for me, just because it's a lot easier. So I'm really excited. I really only have one more sleeve to do, and then an inch of ribbing here, pending that I have the yarn for it. I'd saved, I did the body and then I did the sleeves, and I did do 2 pattern on both, on this ribbing as well as this ribbing, and I still have a decent amount of the cream left. I only need about I think 25 or 30 grams for this sleeve, like total. So I should be in good shape to do that and then come back. But I did leave the body hem an inch short. Right now it's at 3 inches of ribbing. It's supposed to go to 4 inches. And this is also the first, so there's a lot of firsts in this project, not only the half twisted rib, the Italian bind off, but this was also my first drop shoulder construction knitted garment. I'd only ever done Raglans in the round, and so that was really interesting to me. So I've also like never picked up for sleeves with knitting or the neckband. So I also link my little hack. I picked up my neckband and I'm gonna try it with my sleeve. I picked up the stitches with my Tunisian crochet hook. That was so much easier to do than picking up normally with a knitted needle. So I was really happy with that. So I'm gonna try that. The only caveat is I twisted my stitches, which, I mean, I could always, when I'm just doing plain stockinette, I can just knit through the back. So it's super easy to fix. For this half twisted rib, it was a little bit wonky, but it worked. And so I was really happy with that. So I'm excited to pick up stitches for the sleeve. I don't know if I'll get this done this week, but I'm really happy with that. So this is the first pattern on my Make 9, my stripe pipe, and it should be done in the next month. So this is also a winter project. So I definitely aim to get this done so that I can still wear it here in Southern California before it gets too warm, because I would really like to do it. I'm actually going to Michigan soon in February, in mid to late February. So I kind of want to be able to wear this in Michigan. So that is my stripe pipe. So the next pattern on my 2025 Make 9 is the Hearthside Raglan by Lindsey at Just the Worsted. It is a test that I am doing for her. It's due in early May, and so I have quite a gracious window to get it done. And so I'm super excited because it's a Tunisian crochet raglan sweater done primarily in the round. I'm going to be using Royal Bee DK in the colorway Pink Frosted Donut. Their DK is 100% super fine superwash merino. And it's 240 yards in a skein. It's this gorgeous, slightly variegated, like very subtly variegated DK weight yarn. I have 7 skeins of this, so that is hopefully enough because I'm actually making a size medium for this because the medium amounts to almost a 44-inch finished bust. It's intended to have a lot of positive ease, but as I've found out over the last year, positive ease is not something that I tend to like. Just like my stripe pipe here that actually is about the most positive ease that I'm going to want in a garment, and because this was a 49-inch bust, 5 to 6 inches is about as big as I want in terms of positive ease. So it is a Raglan constructed Tunisian crochet sweater done in the round. First you do the yoke flat, and then once you have enough depth for your sleeves, you're going to add stitches to connect and join in the round, and then you'll continue working in the round until you get to your ribbing. I'm really excited for this one because I've never done an in the round Tunisian crochet sweater. I've done a cowl before, so I understand how to work in the round, but I've never done it in a sweater, and I really like the idea of having a seamless piece or a mostly seamless piece. The yoke will have that join in the back, but I'll be able to pick up 4 sleeve stitches and work that in the round, and most of the body will be done in the round. So I'm really excited for this piece to not only be in my wardrobe, but I'm excited to be working on it. I've done a swatch with the recommended hook. I am too many stitches, so I'm too tight. So right now I'm currently swatching. So this is a 6mm hook. I am currently swatching with an 8mm hook. It's looking like that the 8mm metal Tunisian crochet hook is the best. I did some testing with the wooden one, and I'm getting too few stitches, and I need to be at about 14 stitches for 4 inches. And right now with my 8-inch metal hooks, I'm at about 15 stitches unblocked, which means I think once I get to blocking that I should be okay. If that 8mm doesn't block out correctly, my 2 options are get my 7mm fixed. Like I have to order a 7mm hook, which means I need to order it and get it here in time. I have plenty of time, but I would want to order it now so that it has time to get here, and I still have enough time to get the project done without feeling rushed, because I don't want to feel rushed. So that needs to happen, and then I need to swatch that if I do need a 7mm. But I'm hopeful that my 8mm metal hook will work. I'm hopeful that it will work and I won't have to adjust or do something. My other thought is to maybe do the 6.5 and then just like block it kind of hard. I didn't block this swatch hard, and this swatch I think is about 17 stitches. I need to be at 14, so I'm 3 stitches too many. So we'll just see how that blocks out. I will have updates on the podcast, but it's due at the beginning of May. She gave us a 17-week test, which is like literally unheard of. So the next pattern in my 2025 Make 9 is the California Sweater by Leslie from Knit California. The California Sweater is another drop shoulder knitted garment. What's really nice about this is it's made with really large needles. The pattern calls for a 6.5mm needle, which means that this should work up super fast. The pattern calls for a strand of fingering held with a strand of lace, and I will be using this yarn here. So for the lace, I will be using Clockwork Fiber Company's Chime Suri, which is a 75% baby alpaca, 25% silk, and you get 459 yards and 50 grams, which is really nice because most of the other Suri that I've used so far is in the 330-ish range, I believe, or 330 to 350. So you get quite a bit extra with this Suri for basically the same price. And so I'm really excited to use Sam's Suri to see how I like it. I have not used her Suri. I've only used her analog Worsted DK, and so I'm really excited for that. It's the colorway is Cloudless, so it's a really gorgeous blue, and so with like you can see some darker variegations in it. I have some daylight coming in, so it's not showing off quite as much as it does on camera, but that should be a really nice Suri to work with. And then I was kind of flip-flopping over what yarn I should pair it with. I had originally thought that I could pair it with one of hers. I got some of her fingering weight in, I think, her atomic sock, but one of her like sock yarns. But I got white, and I don't know if I want to use my white with it. So I actually found this yarn in my stash. It is Knitology Happy Little Sock, and it's this gorgeous kind of steel light blue, and it's called it's In Your Own World. So the yarn is 70% superwash merino, 20% tencel, and 10% nylon, and you get 400 yards and 100 grams. And so I thought that that would be a great base, and then this Suri would provide kind of like pops of the blue for it. So I'm excited to finally have like a blue sweater in my stash. I don't have any blue sweaters. I have a lot of pink sweaters. Pink is my color, but I do love blue, especially with my blue eyes. I like blue, and I like to wear blue. I just don't have a lot of blue. I have a lot of blue yarn, but I have not yet made a lot of garments with my blue yarn, so I'm really excited to do that. I plan on casting this on probably in March because it is such an open gauge sweater, much like the Lento is. I think that this will be a sweater that I could wear all the way up until like the dead heat of summer here in Los Angeles, and then pick it back up again right when it starts to like decrease in Los Angeles in like October. It's like a nice weight, like in terms of like pullover weight. It's not too heavy. So I'm thinking, at least that's the way my Lento is, and I'm kind of thinking that this is very much like the Lento. And so I'm excited to get this in my wardrobe and get this done. And so my plan is to cast this on in late March. So it might be a winter knitting plan, but it might not be, just depending on where I am on some of my other projects. Next pattern in my 2025 Make 9 is the Day Off Tank by Ashley from Tiny Couch Crochet. And I wanted to make this pattern last year, but things didn't happen. And I've decided that it needs to happen this year and be on my Make 9 because I want more tees and tanks in my wardrobe. The Day Off Tank is a Tunisian crochet fingering tank that is constructed with two panels seamed together, a front panel and a back panel. And it's really got this great striping effect on the front. And that's something that I'm gonna take and tweak a little bit. The yarn that I wanted to use for this project, I don't have another color in, so I can't really do what the pattern calls for in terms of like color striping. But what is unique about this pattern is the stripes are not just a different color, it's a different stitch, and so it creates a texture. And so I thought I could create this tank with the same effect, just doing like a texture difference where those stitches are. And so the yarn that I'm going to be using for this project, because I'm going to be making a smaller size than I would normally be making for my bust. So the pattern recommendation for me would be to make a size large, which is a 42-inch bust, which is pretty close to like my natural bust size. I fluctuate anywhere between a 42 and a 44 inch bust, but because I want this to have negative ease, especially around my bust, because of the yarn that I'm going to be using, I'm actually going to be making a size medium, which corresponds to a 38 inch bust. Speaking of yarn, the yarn that I'm going to be using is Camellia Fiber Company, and I'm going to be using, it's a blend, and so it's a 50% alpaca, 25% linen, 25% silk. It's her CFC flax fingering. There's 437 yards in a 100-gram skein, and it's a 3-ply yarn. And the colorway is Garden Rose. It's this gorgeous rusty pink red, like a dirty rose. And so I'm excited to be using something that isn't a wool. I've used alpaca blends before, at least in like Suri and things like that. But what was really appealing to me was the linen in this. I wanted to make something with linen in it, but that wasn't like 100% linen because I still can't get past like the scratchy feel of linen. That does work its way out like over time as you use it and wear your garment. The linen will soften up, but I wanted something that was a little bit more of a blend so that way I could try linen without like diving deep into linen. And so this will probably be a spring make. I have several tees and tanks that will probably be spring summer makes. I'd love to get this done and ready for summer, so that's why I want to make this a spring make. I don't think that it will take me too long, although it is fingering weight, and fingering weight Tunisian crochet does take a lot longer than like anything DK weight, and so I mean fingering anything takes a lot longer, whether it's knitted or Tunisian. But I just, from experience and working with the pattern calls for a 4mm hook, so I know that that will take some time. And so yeah, that is the day off tank, and I'm really excited to like play with the texture and see how that works up. I have 2 skeins of this. I have 2 skeins of this. Hold on, let me check one thing for my size. If I'm making a size medium, probably want to make sure that I have enough yarn. I think I do. That's why, I mean, I did this ahead of time. Yeah, so I have 2 skeins of this. The pattern calls for 850 yards for the size medium, or for the 38 inch bust. So 2 skeins should like just squeak me in with a gauge swatch. And so yeah, it should be good. It should be good to go with 2. The only thing is if I don't meet row gauge, because I'm noticing that in a couple of my recent projects, whether it was knitting or Tunisian, I can meet stitch gauge, but my row gauge is off quite a bit. So like this tee that I just finished, I hit stitch gauge right on, but my row gauge was severely off. So I actually ended up using more yarn than the pattern called for. So I have to be really careful. So it might be playing around with either my wooden or metal hooks. So I'll just have to kind of make sure that I hit both stitch and row gauge for this, because I don't have a lot of extra yarn. I don't have a 3rd skein to kind of break into if need be, because normally row gauge doesn't matter to me, especially if I have the extra yarn allotted to it, but I only have 2 skeins, so I need to make sure that I hit gauge with the 2 skeins because I don't have a lot of extra room. Right now I'm only working on like 20 yards extra. So, and I'm hoping her numbers come, her numbers come with gauge swatch included, so we should be good there. So yeah, that is the day off tank. I'm super excited to get that in my wardrobe. Have another tank and tee in my wardrobe. So the 5th pattern in my 2025 Make 9 is the Farmer's Market top from AK Lori Designs, Lori Harrison, and I'm going to use this Royal Bee yarn. Their fingering weight, superwash merino 80%, 20% recycled nylon in 100 grams, and the colorway is Raspberry Rhodolite. There's 400 yards in a skein, and I have 4 skeins of this. And so I'm really excited about this tee. I want more tees and tanks in my wardrobe. And so it's a perfect kind of short sleeve summer top. It's Tunisian crochet with kind of like mock ribbing texture, like wide mock ribbing texture. So I'm really excited about that. I love the look that Tunisian crochet can give, especially when it's trying to look like ribbing. And so I'm super excited to have this top. And again, it's going to be a spring summer make, so I'm not sure exactly when, but it'll probably be sometime this spring or summer. I'm going to be making the 3rd size, which will correspond with a 44-inch finished bust, which will give me 1 to 2 inches of positive ease. The pattern actually recommends 4 to 6 inches, but I don't want that much, so I'm just going 1 to 2 inches, and I'll be able to make the 3rd size. I don't have this pattern yet because she does not sell on Ravelry, and so I have to buy it from her directly from off of her website. So I'm not entirely sure about the construction, but based on the Ravelry listing, it is a bottom up construction. So it's worked flat bottom up. So I imagine it's like a 2-panel design where you work a front panel and a back panel, and you might decrease to make the kind of essentially split for your neck opening, and then bind off and then pick up for your other shoulder. I've done several tops and tanks and sweaters like that for around the neck construction, so I'm super interested to see this project work up. This will also be the first time I've worked a pattern of hers. I have not worked a pattern of hers, but I've seen her at Flock. I follow her on Instagram, so I'm excited to try a new to me designer because I tend to stick to a lot of the same designers. So I'm interested in branching out, especially when it comes to Tunisian crochet, and just trying some new designers to see how their kind of end products, how their patterns are written. I'm trying to keep an eye out in case she's looking for pattern testers in the future. So this will be a good opportunity for me to just try out her patterns and her pattern writing style to see how I like that. The next pattern on my 2025 Make 9 is no stranger to my Make 9 because it is the Ranunculus. This was on my 2024 Make 9 and it didn't end up getting made. And I really want this in my wardrobe, so it's back on my Make 9, and come heck or high water this year, it will be done. I'm really excited because it's going to test my skill set. I'm really excited just to have this viral pattern in my wardrobe, and I really like the flexibility that the pattern provides. The pattern by Midori Hirose is a knitted tank that can be made in any weight yarn, and because as you're fingering, from lace to and fingering to DK, worsted, probably even bulky, because the pattern has such an open gauge, the smaller your yarn is, you're going to have something that has a lot more freeness and openness to it than if you did something in, say, worsted weight. It's also has a lace yoke, and I've never done lace work really in knitting. The yarn that I'll be using is this Malabrigo Sock Impressionist Sky, and it's this gorgeous blue. I absolutely love this color blue, and I have 2 skeins of this. So there's, I think, 440 yards in a skein for Malabrigo, and I'm contemplating whether I'm going to do a fingering weight or DK weight sweater. And the reason is that Malabrigo is very well known in terms of dye lot variations. And while I did purchase both skeins together at the same time, so in theory they are the same dye lot, there could be some issues in terms of being able to see my skeins. And I don't really want to do that, and I don't know if I want to alternate skeins, and so that's why I'm thinking one of the ways to curb this is, don't mind the cat, one of the ways to curb this is to hold both skeins together to make a DK weight garment. I will be making the smallest size in the pattern. It's supposed to have a huge amount of positive ease. That's not me. So I'm gonna make the smallest size, the size 1, which corresponds with a 46-inch bust, which should give me 2 to 4 inches of positive ease. And so the pattern says that for the short sleeve version, I should be able to get 370 yards out of whatever I'm using. So this could be a 1 skein fingering weight project if I wanted to use fingering weight, but I think I'm going to use both of my skeins and hold it double, which will give me 440-ish yards of DK weight yarn. So that is going to be, I think what my plan is going to be. I don't think I'm going to do it fingering. I don't want the gauge to be too open. I like something that's just like a nice solid tee with some lace detailing. I'm excited that this will finally get done in 2025 because I am not carrying projects over into 2026 this year. And so if I cast it on, it has to get finished. So I'm being very mindful about what rate I'm casting projects on, so that I'm not casting on too many projects at once. And so it'll be really nice to finally have the ranunculus in my wardrobe, and I'll see how it goes and see if it's like a lot of other people that want to make multiples of it. It might be a nice project to have multiples of in my wardrobe, especially when you consider like it could be like a 2 skein project for the bust size that I would want to make. It could even be a 1 skein project if I want to do the fingering weight. So it's going to be nice to test out to see how I would proceed in the future in terms of making another one. So excited to have the ranunculus in my wardrobe this year. The next pattern on my 2025 Make 9 is the Suri shirt by Caidtree. And this will be the first time that I will do a Caidtree pattern. I actually have several in my Ravelry library. I really like how classic and simple her designs are, and I'm super excited to do this Suri shirt. So the pattern is a boat neck, oversized kind of cap sleeve knitted tee, and it's a fingering weight pattern. I'm going to be using Long Dog Yarn Luxe Fingering, which is 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon, 400 yards per 100 grams. And this is the colorway Speak Friend and Enter. And this is the yarn that I had actually intended to use for this pattern all along. I ordered this yarn specifically for this pattern. And so I'm still debating over the final size that I'm going to cast on for this. I think it'll just depend on kind of A, my gauge, and B, kind of where I get a little confused about, especially when yarns are like some of the more like commercialized yarns over like in Europe, or like these 50-gram balls. I have a hard time translating like how much I should be using in terms of like 100-gram skeins. So the yarn suggested is a 50-gram skein, which has 250 meters or 275 yards in 50 grams, which to me, and I don't know if this is correct, but in my head that translates to like over 500 yards for 100 grams, which would make it like a super light fingering, I think. So that's why I'm not sure. That's why I'm using a project that I know I have extra yarn of in case something in this translation of mine, my head is like not working out right. So I do have 4 skeins of this. And I have some other various skeins from this project that if I don't use all of it, I think I'm going to use in like another project. Actually, a stripe pipe would look really cute in it. Because it's all like blues. But so I'm debating over making the medium, which is a 45.25 inch bust, or the large, which is a 47.25 inch bust. I'm not quite sure where I want to end up with this, so that'll probably be probably a summer, maybe even a fall make, because I live in LA. I can make tees and tanks almost year round, and be able to wear them almost year round. And so I'm just super excited to finally get one of Caidtree's patterns in my Make 9, in my queue to cast on this year, and excited to work with the cashmere blend of Long Dogs. I have worked with her DK weight, and so this will be the first time I finally get to work with her fingering. I do have some other fingering in my stash from her, and so I'm excited to get that done. So that is the Suri shirt by Caidtree. So the next pattern on my Make 9 is the Lynn Tank by Courtney Clark, I Love Tinderbox on Instagram. And it's a crochet tank top, and it's another whip that I'm bringing into and putting on my Make 9. But here's the sad news for this. I'm going to be frogging this entire project because of a few things. First, let's talk about the yarn. So this is Muscarella Yarn's nylon sock in the colorway Marseille, which is a spring tonal, and I have 3 skeins of it. And the reason why I'm frogging this is I started this back in 2023, and this is like the hardest part of the pattern, because of the way it's constructed. You start at the sleeves, you work out and do each triangle, and then you join the triangles, and then you repeat, essentially carrying over and doing the triangles again, and then you eventually join in the round. So the reason why I'm frogging this is when I first cast this project on in 2023, I was making size extra large, which would have corresponded with a 50.4 inch bust. That's the 5th size in the pattern. And as we've discussed throughout this video, and I'll keep saying, I just don't like that much positive ease. I had made another of her tanks that had way too much positive ease, and it's like I made a size too big and it had too much positive ease, and I hardly wear it. And so I really want to be mindful about what I'm going to be making. And I think I'm going to make size 3, which would correspond with a 40.8 inch bust, which would give me 2 or 3 inches of negative ease, which is what I would want this tank to kind of fit, or this is how I would want the tank to fit, really tight against my bust. And it gives me a little bit of kind of ease in my midsection area because I do have a larger chest than I do in my stomach. And so I really want this gorgeous tank. Like, it is a gorgeous tank. What drew me to it was this like detail, like this textured detail. Now, I'm not in love with crochet. Like, it's not, crochet does not spark me joy, but this top sparks me joy. Like, I want this finished top in my wardrobe, like, so bad. And so that's why I'm gonna frog and start over. The other reason is it's actually a really hard pattern to kind of like put down for any length of time and then be able to kind of like figure out where you are. I figured out one of the issues that I had with the pattern, so now I feel like once I get to that point, I won't have as many issues, and so I should be able to just like start fresh and go from there. And so I also have like 1 or 2 mistakes that I'm like really like kicking myself over about, like I missed like a decrease, or I missed like dropping, because these lines are supposed to eventually like fade out, and at one point I missed it, and I was like, I guess that could be the back, but I'm excited to kind of like eventually like work on it this year, frog it, start over, start fresh. I would have loved to be able to like just get to the point where I could like essentially work in the round, but really to get a garment that I love, I need to do it right, which means I need to frog this, which is really heartbreaking, but I know that in the end that will be the best decision for me to do. And so this will probably be a summer project. It might be a late spring project, but definitely in the summer. And I really want to be monogamous when I do this project, because I think I could crank this out, because the hardest part is this. Like, once you get to the body part and you've dropped all your like detailing, the body's just going to be done in the round, circle, circle, circle. Like, it'll be super easy. So, but I remember from working on this that I really do want this to be a monogamous project. So that's why I'm probably queuing this up in the summer when I have other things off my hooks. I can solely focus on this for a few weeks and just get it done and crank it out for my wardrobe. So that is the Lynn tank top by Courtney Clark. The last project for my 2025 Make 9 is a wild card, and it's to be determined, and I'm not going to set it right now because I also, while I do give myself the grace and the flexibility to change my Make 9 at any time, I also felt weird about setting 9 projects in stone to some degree at the beginning of the year, because it doesn't account for things like pattern tests that I do, new projects coming out and new designs coming out. And so I really wanted to give myself the flexibility to choose something later on in the year, or choose something that's like in my queue. I have a huge queue of things that I want to do, but I wasn't sure if it was going to be a Make 9. And so I am giving myself the opportunity to have a wild card. And so I'm not sure when I will set in stone. It might be, okay, this is like, as soon as I cast it on, yep, this is my Make 9. Or it might be something that I just decide later, like that was part of my Make 9, depending on how the rest of my Make 9 is going. I might be looking for something that like maybe expands my skill set a little bit more. You know, that's what I was also thinking about as I was doing all of my deciding over my projects, was making sure that I'm like continuing to expand my skill set both in Tunisian crochet and knitting. And so that's why that's kind of what I will be looking out for when I kind of finalize that final piece for my Make 9. And so that's it. That's all 9 of my Make 9 for 2025. I do have a few things else that I'm going to share with you right now that are either not Make 9s. I mean, they aren't Make 9s, but they are part of my winter making plans, because I have a few projects that I'm working on or plan to be working on throughout the rest of winter here for me. And so, yeah, let's get into the rest of my winter making plans. To recap, as part of my Make 9, I have 2 winter makes, either being swatched or already like whipped and ready to go. So that is my stripe hype and then my Hearthside Raglan. And the third one that I might get to is that California sweater. I'm thinking I will be able to cast it on late winter, so like early March, mid to early March. I think Leslie's coming to my local yarn store at some point in March for like a signing for her journal. So maybe I'll cast it on around that time too, to bring it and kind of hang out at the store. But the other project that I am working on, or I plan to be working on for winter making, is another Indecision sampler sweater, and I'm going to be using Baliora Fibers River Spay in their Merino Decay, which is a 100% superwash, and you get 218 yards in 100 grams, which makes it like a little bit of a heavy decay. And so I'm making another Indecision sampler sweater because my mom has requested it. And I'm going to be visiting my family in February. And so I'm thinking I might also challenge myself to do like a 2-week challenge where I make a sweater in 2 weeks, because this is the one sweater that I think I could do in 2 weeks. And I'm going to be at my parents' for just around like 10 days. So I might cast it on a few days before and then take it to Michigan and try to finish it in Michigan. So the Indecision sweater by Jennifer Lovett at Violet Loops on Instagram is a Tunisian crochet sweater that's done in the round-ish. And so it's a choose your own adventure that is not done in the round in a traditional sense, but you join the first stitch and the last stitch together before you do your return pass, which makes it for less seaming, which give me that all day. Like, I do not like seaming, and I'm not really good at it. I'm getting better. Obviously, with practice, you get better, but I don't really enjoy it. So a few tweaks that I will be making. Obviously, my mother's is a smaller size. I made the size extra large. I will be making the size large for my mother. I will be making hers much longer. So I made mine for the 19.75 inch length because I wanted a crop sweater. My mom is asking for something much longer. It'll probably end up being 26 to 27 inches in length based on, I asked her to measure a sweater that she likes the length of. And so that's probably what the final length is going to be. So it'll be interesting for me to kind of play with stitches. I'm also going to challenge myself to play with at least one stitch that I didn't work with before in my version. Also, maybe even two, because I used the lattice stitch on mine, and I used it right here. And the way just the pattern works in terms of creating the separation kind of for the panels, it created like little gaps, and that's just the nature of the lattice stitch. It also might be because I had to size up. I'm not sure if I'll have to size up with this because this is a little bit of a heavier DK than the DK that I use. My DK was like closer to like 250 or 60 yards, whereas this is 218 yards. So I might be able to like actually follow pattern with hook because the pattern calls for a 6.5 millimeter hook. I ended up using an 8 millimeter, which made the project work up super fast. So I have 7 skeins of this. And I know that I will have to, because it is like almost a semi-solid and there's very little variegation, and because I've worked with her yarn in the past, there is going to be skein differences, just dye lot differences in the yarn. And so I'm going to hedge that by alternating skeins. I might not alternate skeins every round. I might see how much yarn it takes to do like a section and alternate skeins, at least for the body that way. So each section is a skein of yarn, and then I'll probably have to use the bits and end pieces to alternate skeins on the sleeve. So because of the differences in the way the body is stitched up versus the sleeves are stitched flat versus the body done in that kind of roundish construction, it will be easier for me to alternate skein, like every row alternate skeins on the arm versus the body. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking I'm going to do. And so this will be cast on. This will be a winter make. It will be cast on pretty soon in February. And so I'm excited because this will be my mom's first handmade sweater by Mimi. I've made her a shawl. She requested a shawl last year. So now she's requested a sweater. So happy to oblige. And it'll be a good stash busting project because I don't have that many DK weight sweater quantities in my yarn. So it's kind of a little bit of a heartbreak to part with, but I love my mom. So she can have handmade sweaters in hand dyed yarn. So that will be the Indecision Sampler Sweater by Jen Lovett. So my next winter stitching plan make is the Kylie Fingerless Mitts by Stefanie Bold, and they're Tunisian Crochet sport weight fingerless mitts. And so I thought it would be a great way to use like a random skein of sport weight yarn that I have in my stash. And it only requires 1 skein of yarn, so I thought that was pretty awesome. And I have this random skein of Jam Jar Yarns Very Berry Sock in the colorway Boathouse Punch. And so this is a 70, wait a minute, this isn't sport weight. Hold on, let me see. Then this isn't the right yarn. Let me see if I can find the other, because I know I have a sport weight in my stash. Hold on. I knew I had the sport weight. So this is the sport weight. So I'm going to be using this random skein of jam jar yarn. I had bought this skein and the other skein not at the same yarn shops, and I thought that I had bought the same like base, but turns out I had bought one as a sport weight and one as a sock. And so they've just kind of been languishing in my, because they kind of go together, and so I wanted to make something together, but since they're two different weight yarns, that's not going to work. I thought this would be a great stash busting piece and something that I'm testing to see if it's a good gift make, because it's a one skein project for sport weight yarn. And so that's kind of what I wanted to test out with this. So they're Tunisian Crochet Fingerless mitts. And so the yarn is Jam Jar Yarns Fresh and Fruity Sport in the colorway Bella Luna, and it's an 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and there's 328 yards. And depending on the size that I'm going to be making, it's going to be anywhere from a 200 to a 268 weight yard project. So we'll just see kind of how that works out. I also have some scrap Arroyo, Malabrigo Arroyo in that hot pink from my Tunisian cabled sweater. And so I might make a pair, because I think I have like 75 grams of that, which would be perfect. I think I might make a pair for myself, because I think that would be fun to have fingerless mitts there. But I'm testing to see if this is a good kind of fast make for gift making, because I would love to gift stuff for my family and friends, but it can't take a ton of time, and knitted stuff takes too long for me. And so, yeah, and I don't want to do beanies necessarily. So playing around with this, but I'm going to take this. I think this will be like a purse project, like an easy pick up, pick down. And it'll be like an extra project that I take with me to Michigan, because if either I get stuck on something or I just get bored or whatever, it'd be a great kind of like mix things up when I go to Michigan. So that is the Kylie Fingerless Mitts from Stefanie Bold, and it's a free pattern on Ravelry, so definitely check it out. So that's it. That is my Make 9 and the rest of my winter stitching plans that didn't already get covered in my Make 9. Let me know what's in your Make 9 for the year. What did you think about my Make 9? Is there anything that you think it needs to be in that wildcard spot? Let me know. Sound off in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. If you're new to the channel, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're not, thank you for coming back. I really appreciate that. If you are new, please consider subscribing and giving this video a big thumbs up. It really helps the channel, and it helps me kind of figure out what content works best for you. I am on a journey to get to 1,500 subscribers this year on YouTube, so I would really appreciate a subscribe and a like. I have lots of fun Tunisian crochet content planned this year along with my normal podcasts. I'm also trying to roll out some of like the beginning of the year videos, like a Make 9, and so some of that Tunisian content has been like pushed to February. And I'm also trying to get my video like tutorial space like set up. I don't have a camera stand that necessarily works for like overhead shots right now, and my camera stand broke. I'm actually videoing on my laptop, and so I'm still working and tweaking that out along with better lighting. I had filmed a tutorial and I just wasn't really happy with the quality of it, so I'm still figuring that out. But in the meantime, I've got podcasts, bi-weekly podcasts, and I'm still coming out with the beginning of the year content for kind of like my plans for the year. And so be sure to subscribe so that you can be alerted when I upload new videos. Thank you so much for watching, friends. I will see you in the next one. Bye now.